Andy, can you please explain what it is you're known for? And we'll get started with our conversation.
Thanks for having us, man. I guess I'm known for being DJ Hektic, Shokk Events, and also being that laser guy who does a few corporate events from here from time to time.
Awesome. Our discussion tonight, I want to kind of get everyone involved with or understanding how you came to be. So my first question to you is, what moment in your life did you know that music was going to be a big part of who you are and who Hektic is?
I think when I was a kid, when I was first exposed to dance music, that always kind of, it was always different, it always hit you differently, like emotionally. And for me, it was always that sound that I always wanted to hear. So growing up naturally, I guess I was more educated on, the songs back then. Finding music now, like back then, wasn't as accessible as it is nowadays. So if you did know the good tracks, you'd kind of keep that to yourself. It was a privilege to actually know, hard dance music, like quality hard dance music. And I guess being that person, the next natural step is, what are you going to do about it? So kind of dabbled in with like virtual DJ, started mixing a few tracks, trying to understand, the whole gist of that. And then when I turned 18, went to this club in Adelaide. That's where I grew up.
Oh, so you grew up in Adelaide?
Yeah, I grew up in Adelaide. So, I had my first clubbing experience, or nightlife experience, rather, down in Adelaide. And I just remember asking one of the DJs there. I think it was DJ Pulsar at the time. Sway and Pulsar were actually there. And, I just remember Pulsar was playing such a really good set. And then I just went up to him and I'm like, hey, man, I just want to learn how to DJ. You got any advice for me?
That's crazy. So how old were you when you started?
Oh,
like you mentioned, like you were trying to mix tracks.
Probably around 17 when I was just dabbling with software, But the moment I hit 18, hit Pulsar up was literally the first thing I did, and then he was.
Was it scary? Like
no, not at all. Because I'm glad I did, because he gave me the best advice that I give people to this day, which is don't give up.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I can understand like you're being 18, you're like impressionable, and someone said, "Give up, you suck." You would have given up.
Oh, of course. You don't know how these conversations are gonna go, and it just felt right. Like I said, I just went up to him and just asked that question, and thankfully he was just so friendly about it, and I kind of had a really good first impression of meeting, I guess, established DJs at the time, and just knowing that they were so down to earth. It's kind of what I still see, and it's obviously something that I try to do with others as well.
Yeah, awesome. So with that being said, are you still in contact with
him? Absolutely.
You're still friends?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Like we talk. I actually spoke to him the other day for the first time in a while, actually. But no, we still stay in contact. We're great friends on both a business and a personal level. But he's one of my mentors, and I guess I can say that he still is.
Did you have any cultural impact? Like, did your parents grow up with music? Are you from an instrumental family? Like,
absolutely not. I think it probably came from my brother.
Right.
My sister also enjoyed that music from time to time.
Right.
So it kind of passed down through the siblings. But no, my parents had nothing to do with that. I remember when I first bought my first set of decks. They weren't really saying much about it, but
the looks.
Yeah, the looks, absolutely. The looks were enough to tell 1,000 words, and I guess they didn't know, how that was going to turn out. And I remember my uncle was from Vietnam, was over at the time, and I really wanted to film like a 10-minute mix.
Yeah.
Like that's when YouTube first came out, and he had to stand on a chair and hold that camera still for like 10 minutes, And at that time I was mixing on turntables, and I'm like, man, this has got to be that time where I just don't mess up. It's got to be perfect, and it's got to be good enough to put online,
That's crazy.
It still is online.
Is it your first video?
Yeah, the video is still there.
Do you remember how many views you have?
It's actually got quite a lot of views. The thing I'm upset most about is I lost the account. I can't log back in. So had I still had it, I think I could have done more with it, But when I look back at it, it's pretty funny. Seeing the comments over the years, there was a lot of abuse, a lot of whatnot. But that comes with it. If you can't accept like any negative feedback of this industry, then you're probably in the wrong industry.
Yeah.
You know, so it's gonna happen whether you like it or not.
Yeah, 100%. So do you have a particular artist that you kind of have like an idol, not like idol worship, but like someone you look up to, be like, I want to be that guy one day? Back then.
Oh, it changes, you know, and I think that question changes over time because, like, you know, obviously starting off Pulsar, I was idolizing him, and then, you know, I remember when Headhunters came in, he had a massive impact on everyone, including myself, and then now you got guys like Sub-Zero Project.
Huge, right?
Yeah, man, and then who else is there? Vertile, who's like hitting the new generations, and now Jewel Damage, who I really enjoy at the moment. So it's, you know, I can't say I idolize anyone at the moment because I've been doing this for a while, but I certainly take a lot of inspiration from a lot of artists around the world. You know, like I guess when I see them doing good things, it just encourages me to do the same. You know, so I learn a lot watching, you know, people do what they're good at.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's such a rare case where the space is still kind of new. You know, it's still welcoming of new artists. Like, it's not like an established, like a rap industry where it's like Shokk eats Shokk kind of thing. But yeah, I think a lot of the things like you mentioned that people are welcoming in new starters and mentoring them. I think it's a great thing. Are there people that you've mentored in the past?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The list is too long. I think I've put so much of my own time into doing that because to cultivate a scene, to, you know, to create foundations, you need to mentor people. You can't expect people to know what to do from the get-go, you know. That's a perfect world, perfect scenario. But in Brisbane, I've always kind of had to work with people who had to start from the bottom, essentially, start fresh. And I guess many years later, we're now starting to see like so many good talent, you know. Like I remember when I first started, there was very few DJs around, you know, and like I guess the enthusiasm I see now is a lot greater than what it was before. And I'd like to think, you know, the mentorship I've done over time, my contributions over the scene, as well as the collective effort of everyone who participates in these events, you know, together we have created such a strong scene and culture that has limitless potential.
So you mentioned the scene in Brisbane. When did you move up to Brisbane?
2006.
Yeah, was there a particular reason that you moved up? Was it school? Or
Parents wanted me to move up.
Right.
You know, I just graduated school, started my first year in uni in Adelaide, and then my dad was like, "Come up, you know, we need your help, help the family." Yeah. And you know, as you know, as a Vietnamese growing up in Adelaide, you know, family is something you hold true, you know. Right. And when family calls and they need help, you kind of do your part.
Interesting you say that, because I noticed we'll get into it, but the Shokk family is quite integrated. You guys are a pretty tight unit. And it's pretty, like, it's really cool because I'm also Vietnamese. So I grew up with that kind of sense of family honor, family pride. So what made you pick Brisbane? Like, were you here and picked it because you thought it was a little quiet here, which is
it was definitely not by choice, but it ended up being one of the most, how would you call it?
Like a silver lining.
Spontaneous decision, the best spontaneous decision that I could have ever done. And it was definitely unwillingly at the time, you know. I definitely didn't want to leave Adelaide, but when I think back now, it's great. I don't know if I would have what I have if I still lived in Adelaide.
And it's not like you've left it forever. Like, I know you're big in Adelaide still, and you travel back and forth. So it's a great kind of full circle moment.
Yeah, and that's what I'm really appreciative, just being able to go back there and, you know, do my thing. But Adelaide has changed over the years, you know, because we've seen so many generations of people come and go. So the people who I knew when I grew up, you know, they're not coming out to the events as much anymore. They'll pick and choose or may not even go at all. Yeah. But with this young generation, you know, for me, it's felt like I've had to start from the beginning again. Right. And it's good because you need these things to motivate you, you know. When you don't have like a reason to try, then you're never gonna, you know, reach wherever you want to go. And for me, like, just being able to work with Adelaide the past year or so, It's just created a lot of opportunity, especially with lasers as well. I didn't think that most people would know me more for lasers than they would as DJing.
That's wild.
Yeah, but that's what's kind of happened in Adelaide, and I've embraced it. And now, and a couple of weeks ago, I was in Adelaide, and I played, my first DJ set in a while, and it was good to do that because that kind of followed on with the success I had with lasers as well. So to be able to combine both those elements together was the very first time I did it, because for my introduction, for the first track I actually did a time-coded laser show. So I pre-programmed the whole laser show for that introduction track, So I was getting like some DEFCON 1, HSU End Show vibes in it. So I feel like that's kind of the next level I want to achieve, not only as Hektic, but for Shokk Events. I think time-coded laser shows and laser features, that's now going to be a thing going forward at our events.
That's what. Just for context, so people appreciate how much effort. How long does it take to do?
For lasers?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I don't know how many years I've been doing it, but...
But say for like a set, how would you... Is it hours? Is it weeks?
Yeah, hours. I think for that introduction track, I didn't have much time, and I got it done in 3 hours.
Yeah.
I know I could have done better, but I think for what I did in those 3 hours, I'm super happy with it, and now I'm, I've got that workflow down pat, and it's just about doing it again and again for future events.
You mentioned when you first started, your parents kind of looked at your DJ decks and they're like, all right, what's going on? Have you gotten the approval yet?
Absolutely, yeah. they know what I do now, and they're very proud about it,
Did it take a long time of convincing to...
No, not really. I think they've always they were never against it, which was good. But I think they started to see the potential quite early on, and from there, they've seen the whole thing just kind of become what it is.
Yeah, that's funny because like sometimes they have like these preconceived notions. Like I was meant to be a pharmacist at some point.
Well, I was meant to be a doctor,
right? Right. Yeah, that's wild. Can you take me through how you started Shokk? Like, how did it come about, and were there particular people that made it happen, like a golden moment?
I think the reason why Shokk Events was established, because I think back from 2010 up until maybe the end of 2012, we had some roller coaster moments. We had some really good events, and then we'd have some really bad events.
Yeah.
And I remember 2012 was like the golden year for hardstyle. You thought so many good things was going to happen, because I remember that year for DEFCON, I played main stage in Australia, which was a huge achievement for me personally. And we had like a record number of attendees from Queensland come down to DEFCON, so it was massive. And I thought the potential was there. I thought, okay, the event's going forward, like it's just going to be awesome. It's going to be big. And then the opposite happened. And it just felt like we went down to rock bottom, and I was confused.
Was there a particular reason?
I don't know.
Okay,
that's the thing. It just happened. It's one of those things, to this day, I still don't know why. But all I knew at that time, I had to take action.
Right.
And that's kind of how Shokk Events was conceived, because I saw many event companies in Queensland just kind of try, and then they just went bust. And that was unfortunate, because I always wanted them to succeed. I always wanted to thrive as an individual artist. But then I knew that if I didn't do anything about it, I probably wouldn't have a place to play at home anymore. And that was quite scary. And even though I had aspirations at the time to try and make it big in Australia and hopefully go worldwide, that was honestly what I was trying to aspire to be. But then just seeing the state of Queensland at that time was really sad, and I made the decision to kind of like hold back on my individual career and just focus on events. It was hard doing the first Shokk event, great lineup, 3 internationals, and then lost so much money.
You got 3 internationals on your first event.
Yeah.
That's wild. That's like unheard of.
Yeah, we had Wild Styles, Psychopunks, The Player. Was big names at the time. But like, it was just a very harsh reality for me, because knowing how bad Queensland was going downhill, and then seeing that happen at your own event, it was very unmotivating. Put me in a dark place.
Yeah.
I came back a second time, do that event with D Block and Estefan, lost even more money, And then it was just like, why am I doing this? You know, and
were you just working, saving, and then running events just off your back?
pretty much. And during those 2 losses, it was working and surviving and trying to figure out if you want to keep doing this or not.
Right.
But thankfully, the 3rd event, you know, that was a success. And then,
was there a moment between the 2nd and 3rd where you're like, should I do this?
absolutely. I think like that 2013 was the start of Shokk, but it was some of the darkest moments of my life, you know, because like you lose everything and there's not much to fight for, and you're trying to convince yourself like, you know, you've already put so much skin in the game, and you're just gonna walk away from it, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I could have lived with that, because it would have been that permanent stain that you just can't get rid of no matter how hard you try.
Did anyone else doubt you, or was it more like a fight between yourself?
Oh, I think more people doubted me as a DJ than they did with the events. If I'm being honest.
Were they just saying like, okay, if he can't run this, what's the point of him being a DJ kind of thing? Or
I think at the beginning of my DJ career, there were so many people who were saying, "Oh, you're not gonna make it. It's so hard," and it was hard because there weren't many DJs at that time, and I know for hardstyle there was just nothing there, and I made it a goal to try and, you know, fill that void. I wanted to be that person who could provide the hardstyle to this audience where other DJs weren't, you know. Back in the days, the Family was the biggest club and no one was playing hardstyle, and I wanted to do something about it. But on that journey, you had so many people doubting you. And that's why I'm mentioning this, because as Shokk Events, very little doubt with that.
yeah,
You know, everyone wanted to believe in you. Everyone gave you belief because they wanted Queensland to do well. Because I think at that time, everyone just realized going up to Queensland is just shit.
yeah. I mean, I can't lie.
Yeah, so it's and it just took a while to change that perception, you know. And I'm just glad right now we're in different times, and it's just so exciting because now we've got the enthusiasm from people, we got, you know, the support from countless people here, and you know, the journey is just different now.
Yeah. And it also, even with the start of it, it's like, all right, as an individual artist, I can't make it, so I'll just adapt, improvise, overcome, and just start the scene myself. It's a very Sun Tzu moment of you.
Oh man, I thought I could do both, if I'm being honest. And over time, I realized that it was impossible.
Right.
And that's when I had to make another decision in my life to really cut back on Hektic even more, you know.
Right.
Got to the point where I just kind of stopped making music and just put everything into Shokk Events. I still kind of put majority into Shokk Events, but I'm seeing more and more of my time going into Hektic now, which is good because I'm starting to get a good balance between both now.
Yeah, that's great.
Which is what I wanted from the start.
Yeah.
So it's funny how over time things turn around and you're now back to the trajectory that you started on.
And I'm sure during the way you're like, oh man, I'm giving up my career for this. But I think, yeah, it's a full circle moment once again. Is there, over the years, and Shokk has gone for quite a long time, do you have a favorite moment, or is it all just too much now?
Oh man, that's tough because like that favorite moment changes every time.
Yeah.
You know, I've been feeling that for so long. The favorite moment generally comes after, you know, like each successful event. And I know in 2018, 2019, we had a good run of success where, like, you know, each event we were trying to do, we were hitting new milestones. Like, I just remember hitting that first sellout event in 2016, you know. It took years to get there. And then when we finally got it, I'm just like, oh, this is the best. But then after that, you don't just live on that, you know. You're just like, okay, how do I do this again? So you work harder and you constantly try and get that feeling back, that, you know, that sellout feeling. Yeah. It's the biggest dopamine rush. It's a testament of the hard sweat, blood, and tears you put into it, you know?
Yeah.
But favorite moment wise, like, I guess when we did the first hardstyle carnival at the Triffid, I felt like that was a real defining moment for Shokk, because that was kind of like our first nightclub event. You know, every event we did before that was at a nightclub. The Triffid's more of a venue, for
bands,
yeah,
for
for bands
traditional.
and whatnot. So, they weren't accepting of hardstyle at the time, so they gave us a shot there. We sold out the party in 2 weeks with a local lineup, which was fantastic, and that led us to our next big moment, which was running Believe in Hardstyle at the Fortitude Music Hall. So in 2019, within the span of 3 months, we were able to go from the Triffid to the Fortitude Music Hall, and just going from, just one level to another. Like the the magnitude between Fortitude and Triffid, it was just so significant. And
yeah, for context, like Fortitude Valley is like one of the biggest music venues that we got.
yeah, absolutely. In the valley especially, and we were the very first promoters to do like a dance music event there. So that piece of history belongs to us, and that's, I guess those two moments are probably my favorite moments, because that's what set new goals for us. It set a new path for us. We went to doing just any event to now just strictly just events, not like clubbing events anymore.
Right. So when you first started off, did you kind of have to collaborate and piggyback off other events just to make it work, because hardstyle at the time was quite rare, and even like to this day, it's only just like we're the head of the world. Like you talk to Americans and they're still listening to dubstep.
Yeah.
So like in the world, it's us and the Europeans are the face of hardstyle. But at the time, like I remember back then would have been like rap, R&B type clubs. Like how did you have to really network to get your music out there?
I guess, and that's kind of where, as Hektic, where I was able to, create connections and create an identity with people, and I guess that what benefited Shokk. But I like to think Shokk now has become a much bigger entity than what DJ Hektic is and ever was.
Yeah.
And I guess at the time when I started, there was no one around doing anything like this. There was no one to seek advice from except for interstate promoters.
Right.
So I always look to Sydney for advice and for motivation, because every time you see what they do, even to this day, you see what they do, you always think to yourself, man, wouldn't it be nice to have something like that here?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice to have something like Midnight Mafia or Knockout in Queensland?
Were they helpful, or were they kind of scared that new competition was coming?
No, we don't see each other as competition. Like, if anything, everyone around Australia has been super supportive. I remember when we first started, that's all they wanted. They wanted to see Queensland thrive. It's a good thing for everyone, especially for the artists that come here, if they can confidently go from city to city and have great gigs. It used to only be like, oh, you play a good gig in Sydney, and then second gig might be good, might be bad.
Yeah.
Most times bad.
Yeah.
And now it's like, you come to Australia, you could easily play 4 cities in one weekend and every gig will be good. That's how much the scene has changed.
Yeah, and so I'm guessing with that brings more international headliners over.
It certainly does. I think, Australia, we must be number 2 in the world for hardstyle, if I'm being honest, because the only other country who's doing bigger and better is the Netherlands.
Yeah, that's wild, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is a great thing, because those guys get to travel the world basically, and the world being us in the Netherlands. But like we get to see international headliners that we'd only ever see on TV at DEF CON, which is sick. So when you started off talking to those guys in Sydney and Melbourne, do you still keep in contact? Is that reputation still growing?
Absolutely, and that's the thing. Like the guys who started doing events when I started, they're still around. You know, Massive, HSU, they're around. Now we're seeing so many more events around Australia just come up. You got Project Hardstyle in Adelaide, you got Transition Guys in Melbourne, Hard Candy, No Sleep Entertainment in Melbourne. There's a lot of different options in Australia now. It just shows you like how big and how far hardstyle has become in Australia.
That's really good. You know, my only exposure to hardstyle is through Shokk. I'm actually one of the newer fans. So I've only really gotten into it maybe like 3-4 years, and 100% of my experience is with Shokk. Like even Yeah, like so next week will be my first time going to Sydney, going to KO. So my first time going to another event. Otherwise, it's all been your events, which is really cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, you're gonna be in for a surprise because it's like, if you like cars, it's like going from your car to like a Lamborghini.
Really?
Like it's you're going to the best hardstyle event in all of Australia.
Right.
And it's an experience that if you're gonna chase that same experience, you have to go to maybe DEFCON 1 for that,
So it's kind of inspirational for you to see what they're up to.
Absolutely. It's like I said earlier before, I like seeing good people doing what they're good at. I learn from that.
Right.
And it motivates me. So yes, when I see the guys pull off something like knockout, I get the greatest motivation.
Yeah.
I get this biggest rush thinking like, I want to do this in Brisbane one day. That's what I'm thinking. Like, and I'll keep trying. One day we'll get there. That's what I say to myself.
Speaking of which, have you always had a method to setting up the goals for Shokk? Or is it kind of just what you feel like as the years go by?
That changes, and you have to be realistic about expectations because that's a trap for young players, because what success can do to you, you could have like one or two good events and then, the feeling of success can sometimes make you feel invincible and sometimes you can make bad decisions off that. I've certainly learnt my lesson from that.
Have you ever had a moment where you've had to humble yourself?
Oh, absolutely. It's probably happened twice in the last 5 years and people haven't realized, like both times I've come very close to quitting because of humbling myself.
Right.
And, but at the end of the day, I feel like those lessons were necessary because I've grown from it and now I'm not repeating those same mistakes. I'm a lot wiser with decision making and yeah, when setting goals, it's just being very realistic with it. It's not like thinking, you go to knockout and think, all right, we're going to do this in 6 months' time.
Yeah.
Like, you got to think, how are you going to get there?
Right.
I don't think we have 60,000 people here in Queensland who's going to fill those numbers. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get at. That's the question I'm trying to answer and the problem I'm trying to solve.
How do we get those guys up here?
Well, how do we get there? Exactly. Yeah. How do we get there? Because I know we've got options, different venues to do it. Like it's easy to pick a space and go for it, but then it's harder to get the people to come.
Now that you're all wise, do you have any advice for people that are up and coming? Because the way that you've designed Shokk and the way that you've designed the events as well as HSU and the guys in Melbourne, there needs to be growth from the youth. So what would you recommend for someone who wants to try it but they're kind of just too scared?
Once again, don't give up, because why those words ring true? Because when you get scared, you can give up.
Yeah.
When you start doubting yourself, you give up. When you come across whatever situation that starts to make you feel uneasy, you start to think of those lines, you start thinking negative, and then it's easy to give up. It really is just easy to give up in this industry. But if you want to be successful, you always have to try. You always have to remain hungry and you can't ever feel comfortable.
Right.
Because I just feel like the moment you feel comfortable, you start expecting. And once you start expecting, that's kind of when everything can just turn around. You start seeing the world differently and you don't get what you expect in the end.
Yeah, you buy the lotto ticket, but you don't win, so you feel sad.
Yeah, it almost becomes like that. So, when things are going good for you, especially, it's quite easy to just, take the foot off the pedal and just be comfortable and think, I'm just going to do the bare minimum this week and the next week I'll be back at it again.
That's right.
But no, I don't like that attitude because I always want people to keep trying, Like, so if anyone plays for Shokk Events and then if they happen to play the next one, it's because they've earned that right. But then you always have to earn that right. Once you've played that first and second event, you think you want to play that third event, you got to try harder than there's times for the first and second event you played at.
Yeah, don't be complacent. Don't be big-headed. You have such a good work ethic, and along with such a resilience to not fail. Do you have any kind of personal things or routines you go through to keep yourself like up to speed? Because you are like the most energetic person I know.
I think, yeah, I think over time, you know, if you want to keep this going, you want to survive in this industry, you got to put your health first.
Right.
And if you can find a balance of keeping healthy, it makes everything else a lot easier, you know? Like, it's all about balance, man, because like it's so easy to have too much fun in this industry, but then, you know, it's just about picking your battles, you know, or just doing enough to just not damage yourself in the end, I guess. Like, because it's music industry is a brutal industry. Like, mentally, physically, it can suck the soul out of you, you know? So I just think you always need time for yourself. You always just need to make sure that you're the best version of yourself. And then that's how you can, you know, put up with any bullshit that might happen or any challenges. And that's how you keep pushing forward. That's how I push forward.
Have you had to put up those boundaries? Like, you know, someone's trying to push you to drink more or do something that loses focus from the main goal?
It happens all the time, you know. Everyone has good intentions when they offer you a drink. They just want to buy you a drink, you know. And I think I would love to say yes to everyone out of respect. And for the most part, I do. But then if it gets out of hand, I'll just kind of step away, you know. So I'm really good at doing that. So I think, like I said, I think I've found the balance to kind of keep people happy, you know, and share the moment with people, enjoy the moment with people, and then just kind of just stop when you need to. Because at the end of the day, you have to remain professional in this industry. But at the end of the day, you should always be able to have fun as well.
Right. What's your relationship with your team? Do you build it as like, I am boss, you are worker, or is it a family aspect, or how do you go about it?
That changes over time, I guess, because it's always been a family type culture. I think what Shokk Events has done for so many people is provide countless opportunities. I like to think if you step into any other genre, any other event, it will not be this easy. You know, so many people have shared, you know, these great moments that I have. I've shared that with so many people. And I guess, you know, there's always that family culture. I always want to be Andy to people, you know. I don't like bossing people around. I always like to, you know, I like to share things with people. I like to have fun with people. Like, you know, when there's an international, I like to play games with them and just try and see if they can, you know, guess who the act is. So, you know, we try to be interactive, but I guess my biggest challenge is trying to remain interactive with the team, because those are some of the challenges I have, man, because you're always focusing on the big picture, trying to like run the event. But I think what I'm starting to realize is I need more help more than ever. You know, I need more people to delegate things to. And one of the things that I'm starting to do is delegate, like, you know, handling the promoter team, like delegating those tasks to other people, you know. As much as I would like to remain completely engaged with my team, I just feel like the bigger we go, the more and more distant I become from them. I am aware of that, and I try my best to try and get back into it. But yeah, no matter how hard I try, it's always a back and forth thing with my team.
I mean, you see it in any business where you start off so close and you grow bigger, and you're probably thinking day of the event 6 months ago, and then these guys are here and say, I think what you're going through is a common thing for most business owners, especially when you started off as an individual artist and now suddenly you have a team to take care of. You know, it's a wild concept.
And we have quite a big team, and this team's getting bigger because, you know, another, like, not only do I deal with the promoters, I deal with the DJs as well. And like, we got a lot of hungry DJs. I'm at that point where I've got so many talented DJs that want to play for us, and I have the hard decision of picking, you know, a few of them at a time, you know.
Are they all local?
They're all local.
Wow.
Like, it's great to see the enthusiasm and what, like, up-and-coming DJs, like, regard Shokk as, you know. And it's great because if they feel that, then it means that, you know, they're going to fight for it. And I love seeing that in people. And I remember putting an ad out to find more local DJs for Halloween, and my God, I got way more inquiries than what I would have asked for.
Wow.
And I was just overwhelmed. I haven't responded to everyone yet because I was just too overwhelmed, man. And but it just shows you like how much talent there is out there. You know, I want to be able to provide for all, but truth be told, you know, you can't keep everyone happy, and there will be people unhappy with me because they're not going to be able to play, and I've accepted that.
With Shokk, big juicy question. Where do you see Shokk going from here? Because you guys have lasted over a decade now. What's the next step?
So we got Halloween next. That's actually going to be our first event in 5 months. Our last event, when Halloween happens, the last event before that would have been Future Noise at the Brightside.
Yep.
Arena 5, that was a sold out event.
That was a great event.
Yeah, great event. But you must be thinking, why haven't we done anything in those 5 months? Short answer, I just think it was the right decision, and I don't regret it. If anything, I feel vindicated by it because I don't think we would have the demand we have now. Everyone's itching for a Shokk event, you know? And I don't think I would have been able to provide anything in between that would have been good enough.
Right.
So with that being said, we've got Blackout featuring an international act.
Secret?
At the Brightside. Yeah, secret. Yeah, the act will be announced very soon. We're just waiting on confirmation for that. And then I guess next year we have something really big on in the works, you know. I teased that we're bringing the hardstyle carnival back. So I'm working on getting that back. But all I know is when it does come back, it's going to be at a new venue. You know, we've done hardstyle carnival at the Triffid. We took it to the next level, did it at the Fortitude Music Hall, and I always said if we bring it back again, it has to be somewhere different. It has to be somewhere bigger.
Bigger.
Yes.
Wow.
So we're very close to finalizing that. I won't say too much more about that, but just know that next year we plan on hosting our first like major festival type event. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So that's been a long time coming.
It has been. I know it's been a long-standing goal of mine, but remember what I said to you before about being realistic about your expectations. I think we have been very realistic about how we're going to achieve this as well. So I think it's a great step up. It's going to elevate our hardstyle scene to the next level, and I think going forward, we can start seeing more major events if we pull this off.
That's wonderful. It's crazy how when we first started talking, you mentioned the first series of Shokk Events was like do or die, and now you're like hitting the next stage, the bigger picture. You know, that's really, really cool.
Yeah, no, it's funny you mentioned that. I did feel like a do or die moment earlier this year with Shokk Events, you know, and the first 2 events we did was not good. Right. In my eyes, not good. Put us in a bad financial position, but then, you know, we backed it up with Ruler and then Future Noise, sold out both events, and now we're back stronger. And, you know, the way Halloween's going and the reaction from Blackout, I feel like when those events concluded, we would have started the year absolutely poorly, but we ended the year in the best way possible.
Right.
So that's kind of the trajectory at the moment. Which
is really cool. So what do you do when you come across those moments now? Because you know that you can be successful, but these moments come and it puts you in a obviously a bad spot and obviously a mental dark space. Is there something you do to kick yourself out of that, or do you, because you're Vietnamese, just see it as a challenge?
A bit of both. You know, you can't always just take the see it as a challenge approach, because I guess with what we're experiencing now with cost of living going up, right, and people being more selective about spending their money more than ever, you've got to adapt. So the answer to your question is adapting, and you have to adapt fast. You just have to be able to recognize what the situation is and just adapt, make decisions on that basis. And, you know, cost of living, that played a big reason on why we took a 5-month break, you know. We didn't say anything about it, but that was one of the driving forces, you know. But then now starving people with events for 5 months, you feel like that cost of living issue is disregarded, you know, because it's been that long. But once again, you know, I feel like we have to do fewer events in order to remain successful and just host bigger events. Because, I guess what this year's taught me is we can't just keep doing the same thing as what we did last year. We just have to constantly innovate.
Yeah, which is it's crazy that you're still having to kind of adapt yourself and Shokk to the challenge. And I guess now that it's even more critical because you have staff that are looking to you as a leader to make those decisions. And yeah, if you flounder, they'll flounder, and it all falls apart.
You are not wrong there, my friend, and that is the pressure I have to live with, you know. But some days I might not handle it well, but for the most part, I think I handle it pretty well.
That's great. Can I ask about your goals as an individual artist?
Yeah. So as you know, I've got Knockout next week, which I'm super excited about. Or I should say, for the sake of releasing this content, we've got Knockout this week.
Yes.
Knockout is this week, and I'm so excited for it because it is the biggest and best hardstyle event, or even festival for that regard, in Australia. And just to be a part of it, I'm humbled, I'm honored, and I'm gonna make the most out of this opportunity. I've got new music for it, and just can't wait to showcase some of the new music I've got for this event. And I think I'm also playing at the after party as well.
Yeah, sweet.
With Sick Mode and Randy. So once again, like, this, just going down to Sydney is just a amazing opportunity for me on a personal level, and I just can't wait.
Does it bring you back from when you first started making music, being able to make new tracks and stuff?
Yeah, it's done differently these days. You know, I definitely get a bit more help with it than, you know, completely doing it myself, because once again, doing events, you can't do everything yourself. And, you know, it's like the best way I can describe it is, you know, if you build a house, you know, you get to pick your colors, you get to pick how it looks and whatnot, but you're not the one building it, someone else builds it for you. So I'm kind of doing that with music these days. Like
a project manager.
Yeah, a project manager, just to make sure that it is me, you know. But yeah, just getting a little help to get it across the line. So I'm not going to shy away from that.
Yeah.
But, you know, now that I've gotten that out of the way, let's just have some fun and let's just enjoy the music for what it is.
Fucking oath. That's great. Through your history and through even now, are there any particular artists that you want to give a shout out to or give a recognition to?
Oh, absolutely. There's, you know, so many producers in Queensland. We've got DJ Nugget, 9 to 9. I know he's taking a bit of a hiatus. DJ Everlate, honestly, yeah, that guy's so talented. I do hope to see him, you know, play a lot more, not just in Queensland, but just around Australia. And I don't know, there's so many locals I could name. There's so much promising talent in Queensland. And look, I just want to be able to continue to push more and more talent. I want to find more producers in Queensland, especially because if we want Queensland to be on the map in Australia, we need more guys making music. Right. You know? So if you make music, please talk to me. We can help you.
100%. 100%. If people wanted to reach out to you, where could they find you?
Anywhere, message me. I might be a bit slow replying from time to time, but I mean well. I got good intentions.
That's right. And I see you wearing Shokk merch. Is this merch, like, can it be purchased or is it exclusive?
We've been pretty slack with merch recently, but I know for the Hardstyle Carnival, when that comes back, we're going to bring back the merch and,
keep an eye on it.
Yeah, keep it up because, a lot of people have been asking about merch, but that's one of those things where I need to delegate because once I start getting involved in merch, events is going to suffer. That's the truth. And that's why, like, you know, events, it's a massive thing. There's so many elements, but you can't be part of everything. You might be able to oversee everything and make final decisions, but you can't be the one picking the colors, picking design, doing the design, and then building a stage at the same time and programming lasers and then planning your set, making music. It's not like enough time in the day, man.
A nightmare.
So yeah, you can see like my predicament why you know I'm trying to delegate these things, but it's not as easy because I want to find the right people as well.
So hardstyle, although it's established in Australia, is still new to some people. Can you kind of describe or what would you say for someone who's not sure about coming to their first event?
I think that's the hardest thing is making that decision to go, you know, because I find most people who make that decision, especially if you go with good company, there's a very good chance that you're going to come out liking it. You know, I've seen that happen too many times. But if you're kind of the only person in your group that likes hardstyle and your other friends don't, yeah, it's more challenging. But then if you're brave enough to make the decision and be like, you know what, maybe I'll come check it out myself, you won't regret it. Because so many individuals like that have come into a Shokk event and have walked out with, you know, they leave the event with so many more friends.
100%.
So it's kind of, you know, I think the best way to get people into hardstyle, it needs to be a collective effort. I'm going to do my part. I will do the events. I will do everything I can to help get new people in. But it's like people like yourself that needs to help other people, you know, spread the word. And I always think if you get one person that to come into the event, you know, that's progress. That's amazing. Like, I can't ask for anything more. But then you ask, let's say if you get 1,000 people doing the same thing, you know, you can see how everyone who brings a friend in, that can turn into something really big. But then you've got certain individuals who can bring 5 to 10 people, even 100 from time to time, you know. It's all about finding individuals who can kind of help, you know, push hardstyle. We need more enthusiasm. You can never get enough of it.
That's 100%. That's great. Final question. Thank you for being on this interview.
No problem.
My final question to you is, part of this interview, we have a challenge question. Challenge is you need to nominate someone to come on and get interviewed. If they fail to come on, they enter an oil pan and they're stuck on that oil pan of shame until they come back and redeem themselves. Do you have someone to name?
Yep, I will name my business partner with Shokk and DJ partner in crime, Avox. If you don't come, you're going to be Fryvox, no doubt.
100%. Thank you so much.
No, thanks for
joining
having
us,
my friend.
It was a great interview.
Good fun, man. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.